The stars looked different today. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, watching the view screen with worry in his eyes. Far ahead, beyond the edge of their solar system, something waited. Something big and dangerous. "Captain, we're getting more readings," said Amy White from her station. She was the ship's communications officer, a young woman with short black hair and quick fingers that danced across her control panel. "The alien fleet is huge. I count over 400 ships." Jake nodded slowly. He had been expecting this news, but it still hit him like a punch to the gut. 400 ships. The USS Defiant was just one ship with 200 crew members. It seemed impossible. "What do the ships look like?" Jake asked. Amy pressed some buttons, and the main screen changed. Now they could see the alien fleet in the distance. The ships were beautiful and terrible at the same time. They looked like they were made of crystal that glowed with blue light. Each ship was 3 times bigger than the Defiant. The biggest ship in the middle was 10 times their size. "They're called Zephyrians," said Tony Rodriguez, the weapons officer. He was a big man with strong arms and a serious face. "Intelligence says they've been watching us for months. They don't like that. We're getting stronger." Jake walked to the center of the bridge. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. These were good people. Lisa Park, the chief engineer, was probably down in the engine room right now, making sure everything ran perfectly. Dr. Sam Chun was in the medical bay, getting ready for what might come. They all knew this could be their last day. "Sir, Amy," sighed, her voice tight with worry. "We're getting a message from the alien fleet." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The view screen changed again. Now they could see inside one of the crystal ships. A tall alien stood in what looked like a command center. The creature had gray skin and 6 arms. Its head was long and narrow, with 4 eyes that glowed red. When it spoke, its voice was cold and harsh. "I am War Commander Vexthiel of the Zephyrian Collective," the alien said. "We have watched your species with growing concern. You build weapons. You expand into space. You are dangerous." Jake stepped forward. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Defiant. We come in peace. We don't want to fight." The alien's 4 eyes focused on Jake. "Peace? Your species does not know peace. You fight each other. You destroy your own planet. Now you reach for the stars with the same violence." "We're not violent," Jake said, but even as he said it, he knew it wasn't completely true. Humans did fight. They had wars. But they also had love, friendship, and hope. "You will surrender," Vexthal continued. "You have 72 hours to give up your weapons and submit to Zephyrian rule. If you refuse, we will destroy your world and every human in this system." The screen went dark. The bridge was quiet for a long moment. Jake looked around at his crew. They were scared, but they were also angry. No one liked being threatened. "Captain," Tony said, "Earth Command is sending a message." Jake nodded. "Put it through." A new face appeared on the screen. It was Admiral Kate Sullivan, head of Earth's Defense Forces. She was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but her face was serious now. "Jake," she said, "I know this looks bad. Our main fleet won't be ready for another 6 months. The shipyards are working as fast as they can, but we need more time. What are your orders, Admiral?" Jake asked. Kate was quiet for a moment. "You're our only ship that's ready for deep space combat. The Defiant has our best technology, our newest engines, our strongest shields, our smartest weapons. You want us to fight 400 ships?" Tony asked in disbelief. "I want you to." "Buy us time," Kate said. "Show them that humans don't give up. Show them that we're not afraid." Jake felt his heart beating faster. Admiral, with respect, were one ship. They have 400. Kate smiled, but it was a sad smile. Jake, you're not just any ship. You're human. That means something. Your crew doesn't just follow orders. They think. They adapt. They surprise people. The message ended. The bridge was quiet again. Jake looked at his crew. Amy was staring at her hands. Tony was checking his weapon systems. From the intercom came Lisa's voice from the engine room. Captain, I heard everything. The engines are running perfectly. We're ready for whatever comes. Jake made his decision. Amy, open a channel to the whole ship. Channel open, sir. Jake pressed the button to speak to his crew. This is Captain Morrison. You all know what's happening. We're one ship against 400. The odds are bad. Really bad. He paused, thinking about what to say next. But we're human. We don't give up when things look impossible. We don't run away when people need us. Earth is counting on us. Our families are counting on us. His voice got stronger. We might be just one ship, but we're not just any ship. We're the Defiant. We're human. And we're going to show these aliens what that means. Jake looked at his crew. They were still scared, but now they looked determined too. Amy was sitting up straighter. Tony was smiling grimly as he prepared his weapons. From all over the ship came the voices of his crew, saying they were ready. Set course for the alien fleet, Jake ordered. Full speed ahead. The USS Defiant turned toward the waiting enemy. Behind them, Earth seemed very small and far away. Ahead of them, 400 crystal ships waited like hungry wolves. But the Defiant moved forward anyway, carrying 200. Humans who refused to surrender. The battle for humanity was about to begin. War Commander Vexthal stood in the command center of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. His 4 red eyes stared at the screen, showing the approaching human vessel. Behind him, his officers moved between control stations, their 6 arms working. Quickly on glowing panels. Commander, said one of his officers, the human ship is still approaching. It will reach us in 2 hours. Vexthal made a sound that was like angry laughter. One ship? They send us one tiny ship. He turned to face his officers. Do they think this is a joke? Do they mock the power of the Zephyrian Collective? Perhaps it is a trap, suggested another officer. Maybe more ships are hidden nearby. No. Vexthal said, his voice cold. Our sensors would find them. The humans are either very brave or very stupid. Either way, they will die. On the USS Defiant, Jake Morrison sat in his captain's chair, watching the alien fleet grow larger on the screen. The crystal ships were beautiful, but they looked deadly. Each one bristled with weapons that glowed with the same blue light as their hulls. Captain, Lisa Park's voice came through the intercom from the engine room. I'm pushing the fusion drives as hard as I can. We're moving faster than we've ever moved before. Good work, Lisa, Jake replied. How are the new systems holding? Up? The experimental shields are working perfectly. The plasma cannons are charged and ready. Captain, this ship is the best thing Earth has ever built. Jake nodded. The Defiant was special. It had taken Earth's best scientists 5 years to build it. The hull was made of a new metal that was stronger than steel, but lighter than aluminum. The engines used fusion power that burned hotter than the sun. The weapons could punch through almost anything. But would it be enough? Tony, Jake said to his weapons officer, what's our tactical situation? Tony Rodriguez looked up from his console. His face was serious but calm. 412 enemy ships, sir. The smallest ones are 3 times our size. The biggest one is massive. Our weapons can hurt them, but we'll need to be smart about it. Amy, Jake said, any more messages from the aliens? Amy White shook her head. Nothing, sir. But I'm picking up their communications. They're talking about making an example of us. Jake stood up and walked to the front of the bridge. Through the big window, he could see the alien fleet with his own eyes now. They were still far away, but they looked like a wall of blue light blocking the stars. "Sir," Amy said suddenly, "the aliens are moving. They're forming up for attack." On the screen, they watched as the crystal ships arranged themselves in perfect lines. It was like watching a dance, but a deadly one. The ships moved with precision that no human fleet could match. "They fight like machines," Tony observed. "Everything in straight lines and perfect formations." "That might be our advantage," Jake said. "Lisa, are you listening?" "Yes, sir," came Lisa's voice from the engine room. "How maneuverable are we compared to them?" "Captain, we can turn and twist like a fish in water. Those big crystal ships? They're like whales, big and powerful, but slow to change direction." Jake smiled. "That's what I wanted to hear." "Tony, Amy, Lisa, listen carefully. We're not going to fight them like they expect. We're going to fight them like humans." The alien fleet was moving now, coming toward the Defiant in perfect formation. Vexthal stood proudly on his bridge, watching his ships advance. This would be easy. The human ship would be destroyed in minutes, and then they would move on to conquer Earth. "All ships, prepare to fire," Vexthal commanded. "Target the human vessel. Destroy it completely." "Sir," one of his officers said, "should we try to capture it first? We could learn about their technology." "No," Vexthal said firmly. "We will make them an example. Other species will see what happens when you challenge the Zephyrian collective." The human ship was getting closer. It was small and dark, with no beautiful crystal hull or glowing lights. To Vexthal, it looked crude and primitive. How could such a thing threaten his mighty fleet? "Range in 30 seconds, the officer reported. "All ships, prepare to fire," Vexthal ordered. But something strange happened. Just as the alien ships were about to attack, the human vessel suddenly changed direction. It didn't turn slowly like the crystal ships. It twisted and spun like a living thing, diving down and to the side. "What?" Vexthal said, surprised. "How did it move so fast?" On the Defiant, Jake held tight to his chair as the ship spun through space. "Lisa, that was amazing." "Just getting started, Captain," Lisa replied. "These new engines can do things those aliens have never seen." The alien ships fired, but their beams of blue energy passed through empty space. The Defiant had moved too, quickly for them to track. "Tony, now!" Jake shouted. Tony pressed his firing controls. The Defiant's plasma cannons sent bright red beams toward the alien fleet. The beams hit 3 of the smaller ships, and the crew watched with amazement as the crystal hulls cracked and broke apart. "We hurt them," Amy said excitedly, but there was no time to celebrate. The alien ships were turning to face them again, their weapons charging for another attack. There were still over 400 ships left. "Amy, can you jam their communications?" Jake asked. "I'm trying, sir. Their system is different from ours, but I think I can confuse them." Jake watched the alien fleet trying to reorganize. They were used to fighting in perfect formations, but the Defiant's hit-and-run attack had scattered them. Some ships were turning left, others right. They were getting in each other's way. "Lisa, take us around that big asteroid," Jake ordered. "Use it as cover." The Defiant dove toward a large rock floating in space. The alien ships followed, but they were too big and slow to follow the same path. Several of them crashed into the asteroid, their crystal hulls shattering. "They're not used to fighting in asteroid fields," Tony observed. "They want open space where they can use their formations." "Then we won't give them open space," Jake said. "Amy, how's that jamming coming?" "I'm in their system, sir. I'm sending false coordinates to half their fleet." On the alien flagship, Vexthal was becoming angry. His perfect fleet was in chaos. Ships were reporting different locations for the human vessel. Some were firing at empty space. Others were crashing into asteroids. How is one small ship causing so much trouble? He demanded. Commander, one of his officers said nervously, the humans fight differently than we expected. They don't use formations or follow standard tactics. Then we will adapt, Vexthal said. All ships, abandon formation. Hunt the human ship individually. But even as he gave the order, Vexthal felt a cold fear in his heart. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to be weak. Instead, they were making his mighty fleet look foolish. The USS Defiant twisted through space, dodging energy beams and using asteroids as shields. Jake stood on the bridge, watching his crew work together like a perfect team. They were scared, but they were also excited. They were winning. Captain, Tony said, I'm detecting a weakness in their crystal hulls. If we can hit them at just the right frequency. Do it, Jake ordered. The battle was far from over, but the Defiant had drawn first blood. One human ship against 400 aliens, and the humans were not losing. They were proving that sometimes being different was better than being bigger. The battle had been going on for 3 hours. Space around the asteroid field was filled with the wreckage of alien ships. Pieces of broken crystal floated like deadly jewels among the rocks. The USS Defiant moved through it all like a shark, hunting in dark water. 47 enemy ships destroyed, Tony Rodriguez reported from his weapons station. His face was covered in sweat, but his eyes were bright with excitement. The frequency weapon is working better than we hoped. Jake Morrison stood behind his weapons officer, watching the tactical display. The alien fleet was no longer in perfect formation. Instead, they were scattered across a wide area, hunting for the human ship that kept appearing and disappearing among the asteroids. Amy, how's our jamming working? Jake asked. Amy White looked up from her console. Her fingers had been flying across the controls for hours, but she showed no signs of getting tired. I'm inside their communication system completely now, sir. I can hear everything they're saying to each other. What are they saying? They're confused and angry. Their commander is screaming at his officers. Half the fleet is looking for us in the wrong place, because I'm feeding them false sensor data. Jake smiled grimly. Keep it up. Lisa, how are our engines holding up? Running hot but steady, Captain. Lisa Park's voice came through the intercom. I've got the fusion drives pushed to 120% power. We're faster than anything they have. Jake nodded. The Defiant's speed was keeping them alive. Every time the alien ships thought they had cornered the human vessel, it would suddenly accelerate and escape. The crystal ships were powerful, but they were built for straight-line battles, not for the twisting, turning fight that Jake was. Killing them. Sir, Amy said suddenly, I'm picking up something interesting. The aliens are arguing among themselves. Some of them want to retreat. Retreat? Jake was surprised. They still have over 300 ships left. They've never lost this many ships to a single enemy before, Amy explained. Their commander is losing control of his fleet. On the alien flagship, War Commander Vexthal was indeed losing control. His command center was filled with the sound of panicked voices as his officers reported more losses. The human ship has destroyed another squadron, one officer reported. They used the asteroid field to hide and attacked from 3 different directions at once. That's impossible, Vexthal snapped. One ship cannot attack from 3 directions. They used the asteroids to bounce their weapons fire, Commander. The beams reflected off the crystal formations and hit our ships from unexpected angles. Vexthal? 4 eyes blazed with anger. Humans are supposed to be primitive. They should not know such tactics. Another officer spoke up nervously. Commander, perhaps we should consider a tactical withdrawal. We could return with more ships ... No, Vexthol roared. We do not retreat from one small ship. I will not be the commander who ran from humans. But even as he spoke, Vexthol felt doubt growing in his mind. The humans were fighting like nothing he had ever seen. They used tricks and deception. They turned his own fleet's size against them. They made his ships crash into asteroids and shoot at empty space. This was not how war was supposed to be fought. On the Defiant, Jake was studying the tactical display with growing confidence. The alien fleet was spread out over a huge area now, with gaps in their formation that he could exploit. Tony, I want you to try something, Jake said. See that group of 6 ships on the left? They're bunched up together. I see them, sir. Amy, can you make those ships think we're attacking from the right? Amy's fingers danced across her controls. Done, sir. They're turning to face the wrong direction. Good. Tony, hit them with everything we've got. Full spread of plasma torpedoes. The Defiant's torpedo tubes fired 6 bright projectiles that streaked through space toward the alien ships. The crystal vessels were still turning to face the false threat when the torpedoes hit them. 3 ships exploded in brilliant flashes of blue light. Beautiful work, both of you, Jake said. Amy, what's the reaction from their fleet? They're getting more disorganized, sir. Some ships are firing at asteroids, thinking we're hiding behind them. Others are shooting at their own ships by mistake. Jake felt a moment of sympathy for the alien crews. They were trying to fight an enemy that refused to follow the rules they understood. But then he remembered that these same aliens had threatened to destroy Earth and kill every human in the solar system. Lisa, take us to Sector 7. There's a cluster of asteroids there that will give us good cover. On our way, Captain. The Defiant twisted through space, its hull gleaming in the light of distant stars. Behind them, a formation of 20 alien ships gave chase, their blue energy beams lighting up the darkness. They're gaining on us, Tony reported. Let them. Jake said calmly. Amy, are you ready? Ready, sir? Jake waited until the alien ships were almost in firing range. Then he gave the order, now. Amy activated a program she had been working on for the past hour. Suddenly, the asteroids around them began to glow. She had managed to hack into the alien ship's sensors and make them think the rocks were enemy vessels. The pursuing ships immediately opened fire on the asteroids. Beams of energy struck the rocky surfaces, causing huge explosions. The alien ships were so busy shooting at fake targets that they didn't notice the Defiant coming up behind them. Fire, Jake ordered. Tony's plasma cannon sent deadly beams into the rear of the alien formation. Ship after ship exploded as the human weapons found their mark. Within minutes, the entire pursuing force was destroyed. That's 73 ships down, Tony reported with satisfaction. But the battle was far from over. The remaining alien ships were regrouping, and their commander was finally learning to adapt to human tactics. Sir, Amy said, her voice worried, the alien commander is ordering his ships to stop using formations. He's telling them to fight individually. Jake frowned. That was smart. Individual ships would be harder to confuse and trick. The alien commander was learning. How many ships do they have left? Jake asked. 327, Tony replied. Jake did the math quickly. They had destroyed 85 alien ships, but there were still more than 300 left. The Defiant had taken some damage, too. Their shields were down to 60%, and several systems were running on backup power. Captain, Lisa's voice came through the intercom. I'm getting some concerning readings from the fusion reactor. We can't keep fighting at this intensity much longer. Jake nodded. They had done well, but they were just one ship against an entire fleet. Eventually, their luck would run out. Amy, can you get a message to Earth? Yes, sir. Tight beam transmission. Good. Tell them we've engaged the enemy and inflicted heavy casualties. Tell them we're doing our best. As Amy sent the message, Jake looked around at his crew. They were tired but determined. They had proven that humans could fight against impossible odds. They had shown the aliens that Earth would not surrender without a fight. The battle was not over yet. But whatever happened next, the crew of the USS Defiant had already made history. They had faced 400 alien ships and made them pay for every light year of space. The war for humanities. Future continued among the stars. 6 hours ago, Admiral Kate Sullivan had stood in the command center on Earth, watching the USS Defiant disappear into the darkness of space. Now she paced back and forth, waiting for news from the battle. "Admiral," said Colonel Dan Murphy, her chief of staff, "we're getting reports from our long-range sensors. The battle is still going on." Kate stopped pacing. "What kind of reports?" "Energy signatures consistent with weapons fire. Multiple explosions." "Ma'am, it looks like the Defiant is still fighting." Kate felt her heart jump. Jake Morrison and his crew were still alive, still fighting against impossible odds. "Any word from Captain Morrison?" "Yes, ma'am. A message came in 20 minutes ago. He reports heavy casualties inflicted on the enemy fleet. He says they're doing their best." Kate nodded. She had known Jake for 10 years. He was a good officer and a better man. If he said they were doing their best, then they were performing miracles out there. But she also knew that miracles could only last so long. "Ma'am," Colonel Murphy said quietly, "the President is asking for an update. The entire planet is watching." Kate understood. Every person on Earth knew that their fate was being decided in the darkness beyond their solar system. One ship and 200 brave souls stood between humanity and extinction. "Tell the President that our people are fighting with everything they have," Kate said. "Tell him that the human spirit is stronger than any alien technology." Far from Earth, in the asteroid field where the battle raged, the USS Defiant was proving Kate's words true. But the ship was paying a heavy price for every victory. "Hull breach on Deck 7. Dr. Sam Chun reported over the intercom. I've got 14 wounded crew members in the medical bay." Jake Morrison felt each casualty like a knife in his heart. These were his people, his friends. They were dying because he had led them into battle against an enemy that outnumbered them hundreds to one. "How bad are the injuries?" Jake asked. 3 serious, the rest minor." "Captain, we're running low on medical supplies. If this keeps up..." Jake understood. Dr. Chun didn't need to finish the sentence. The Defiant was a warship, not a hospital. It carried enough medical supplies for normal operations, not for a battle like this. "Lisa, what's our status?" Jake called to the engine room. "Main power is down to 70%, Lisa Park replied. "The fusion reactor is running hot. I've got hull breaches in 3 sections, and our shield generators are barely holding together." Jake looked at the tactical display. They had destroyed 112 alien ships, but there were still over 200 left. The enemy was learning to fight like humans, adapting their tactics to counter every trick the Defiant used. "Sir," Amy White said from her communication station, "I'm losing control of their computer systems. They've figured out how to block my hacking attempts." Tony Rodriguez looked up from his weapons console. "Plasma cannon power is down to 40%. We're running low on torpedo ammunition." Jake felt the weight of command pressing down on him. His ship was damaged, his crew was tired, and his weapons were failing. But they were still fighting, still refusing to give up. "Amy, patch me through to the whole ship," Jake ordered. "Channel open, sir." Jake pressed the button to speak to his crew. "This is the captain. I know you're all tired. I know some of you are hurt. I know this seems impossible. He paused, looking around at the faces on his bridge. These people had followed him into hell itself, and they were still standing. But 6 hours ago, we faced 400 alien ships. Now there are only 200 left. We've cut their fleet in half. We've shown them that humans don't surrender. His voice grew stronger. Every minute we fight, every ship we destroy, we're buying time for Earth. Our families, our friends, our entire species depends on us. We are the line between humanity and extinction. From all over the ship came the voices of his crew, shouting their agreement. They were battered and bloodied, but they were not broken. "All right then," Jake said. "Let's show these aliens what humans can do when they're pushed to the limit." On the alien flagship, War Commander Vic Still was having his own crisis of leadership. His beautiful fleet was in ruins. More than a quarter of his ships were destroyed or damaged. His officers were questioning his orders. "Commander," one of his subordinates said carefully, "perhaps we should consider the cost of this battle. We have lost many ships to one small enemy. Are you suggesting we retreat?" Vexthal asked dangerously. "I am suggesting we think about our losses, Commander. The human ship fights like nothing we have ever seen. They use tricks and deception. They turn our own strength against us." Vexthal's 4 eyes blazed with anger. "They are primitives. They should not be able to resist the might of the Zephyrian collective." But even as he spoke, Vexthal knew his subordinate was right. The humans were fighting with a creativity and determination that defied everything the Zephyrians understood. About war, they didn't follow standard tactics. They didn't use proper formations. They fought like wild animals defending their young. "Commander," another officer reported, "the human ship is moving again. They're heading for the dense part of the asteroid field." Vexthal studied the tactical display. The human vessel was indeed moving toward a cluster of large asteroids. It was probably trying to find more cover, more places to hide and strike from ambush. "Order all ships to surround that area," Vexthal commanded. "We will trap them among the rocks and finish this." But as his ships moved to surround the asteroid field, Vexthal felt a strange unease. The humans had surprised him too many times already. What if this was another trap? On the Defiant, Jake was indeed planning another surprise. But this one was different from all the others. This one was desperate. "Lisa, I need you to do something that might kill us all," Jake said into the intercom. "What do you need, Captain?" "I need you to overload the fusion reactor. Not enough to explode, but enough to create a massive energy pulse." There was silence from the engine room. Then Lisa's voice came back, calm and steady. "That's never been tried before, Captain. The energy release could destroy our own ship." "Can you do it?" "Yes, sir, but we'll only get one chance. After the pulse, our reactor will be offline for at least an hour." Jake looked at his crew. They were all listening to the conversation. They all knew what he was planning. One final gamble. One last desperate throw of the dice. "Do it," Jake ordered Dot, as Lisa began the dangerous process of overloading the fusion reactor. Jake thought about Admiral Kate Sullivan's words. She had said that sometimes one ship crewed by determined humans was worth more than 1,000 vessels manned by those who followed only orders. Jake hoped she was right, because in the next few minutes they would find out if the human spirit was truly stronger than alien technology. The USS Defiant moved deeper into the asteroid field, carrying its crew toward their final confrontation with the enemy. Behind them, 200 alien ships closed in for the kill. The battle for humanity's future was about to reach its climax. The USS Defiant sat motionless in the center of the asteroid field, surrounded by floating rocks the size of mountains. Around the field, 200 alien ships formed a perfect circle, their crystal hulls glowing with deadly blue light. "They have us surrounded," Tony Rodriguez reported from his weapons station. His voice was calm, but sweat ran down his face. "No way out, sir." Jake Morrison stood in the center of the bridge, looking at the tactical display. Red dots showed the enemy ships closing in from all directions. The Defiant was trapped like a mouse in a cage. "Lisa, how long until the reactor overload is ready?" Jake asked. 30 seconds, Captain." Lisa Park's voice came through the intercom. "But sir, I have to warn you one more time. This has never been tested. The energy pulse could tear our ship apart." Jake nodded. He understood the risk, but they were out of options. The alien fleet had finally learned to fight like humans, and now they were using human tactics against the Defiant. "Amy, can you get a message to Earth?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir." "Tight beam transmission. Send this to Admiral Sullivan and the people of Earth. We have fought with honor. We have shown the enemy that humanity will never surrender, whatever happens. Next, remember that we chose to stand and fight." The crew of the USS Defiant, signing off. Amy's fingers trembled as she sent the message. Around the bridge, the crew stood at their stations, waiting for the end. They had fought for 7 hours against impossible odds. Now it was time for their final act. "Sir," Amy said quietly, "message sent." On the alien flagship, War Commander Vexthal felt victory within his grasp. The human ship was trapped. There was nowhere for it to run, nowhere for it to hide. After 7 hours of humiliation, he would finally destroy the vessel that had made his mighty fleet look foolish. "All ships, prepare to fire," Vexthal ordered. "Target the human vessel. I want nothing left but atoms." His officers moved to carry out the order. Energy weapons began to charge across the alien fleet. The crystal ships glowed brighter as power flowed to their guns. "Commander," one officer said, "all ships report ready to fire." Vexthal smiled with his thin alien lips. "Fire." But just as the alien ships fired their weapons, something incredible happened. The human ship suddenly blazed with brilliant white. Light. The light grew brighter and brighter until it was like a second sun burning in the asteroid field. "What is that?" Veek still demanded Dot before anyone could answer. The light exploded outward in a massive pulse of energy. The pulse swept through the alien fleet like a tidal wave, washing over every ship in seconds. Dot, and then one by one, the alien ships went dark. All systems offline. An officer shouted on the alien flagship. "Engines dead. Weapons dead. Life support. Running on emergency power?" Vexthal stared at the screens in horror. His entire fleet was floating helplessly in space, their crystal hulls dark and lifeless. The human ship's energy pulse had knocked out every system on every ship. "How?" Vexthal whispered. "How did they do this?" On the Defiant, the crew was asking the same question. The bridge was lit only by emergency lighting, and most of their systems were offline too. But they were alive. "Lisa," Jake called, "what's our status?" "Main power is completely offline," Lisa replied. "But the emergency systems are working. Life support is stable." "Captain, the pulse worked better than we hoped." Jake looked at the tactical display, running on backup power. The alien fleet was scattered around them, dark and silent. Not a single enemy ship showed any sign of activity. "My God," Tony whispered. "We did it. We actually did it." Amy was working frantically at her communications console.